Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. You guys know me, I'm Jessica. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to the match preview. Make sure you guys smash the likes. I have Dan Potts here with me. He has his own things going on, and I'll get him, to let you guys know where to follow him and all that kind of stuff. But Dan's been on the channel before, and usually when he's on here, we have an amazing time. So you guys all welcome Dan here to the channel. And Dan, how are you? How you feeling?
Well, listen, first of all, thank you for having me on. And again, and second of all, well done you, man. I've been seeing your face all over everywhere, and it's great because it's been a long time me and you have known each other now, believe it or not. It's been a few years, and it's good to see you doing good things in the YouTube world and, well, everywhere, not just YouTube. So big up yourself and well done you, and absolute pleasure. And big up the chat and make sure you smash the likes. Jess, it's a pleasure as always.
Yeah, you guys make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that great stuff. Dan is probably one of the first people that I met in this industry long time ago. No, it hasn't been a long time ago, but since I've been a part of this whole thing, and it's always been good times. Whether we were on the same side all the time, I feel like sometimes I'm more here and you're more there, but ultimately we both just want the Arsenal to do well, right? And that's
absolutely
all that really matters. Exactly. So yeah, you guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to do the preview, obviously, for the North London Derby, a massive game ahead of a couple of fixtures that I think are going to give us a really good picture of where Arsenal actually are in terms of a title race and things like that. But I wanted to, kind of ask you, how surprised are you, if at all, how surprised are you that Arsenal are in the position that they're in? Like, if I told you at the beginning of the season that we'd be 5 points clear going into the North London Derby, after the World Cup, would you have been like, what are you on? Like, how surprised are you?
Yeah, very surprised would be the answer. But I tell you why I believe it's happened. A lot of people know my opinions on the regime and the process and the manager and the ownership, and it hasn't been too positive over the last few years. And I've not been shy in giving my opinions as to why I felt that way. If I'm honest with you, Jess, I stand by what I'd said because I felt like it was justifiable. Coming eighth and fifth, I was thinking, oh, I've had enough of this now. Like, I need to be getting towards a title. But one thing I always did praise Edu and Arteta for, not so much with the Cronkies, etc., was I felt that what they were doing off the pitch, away from the bad results and away from the shocking displays that we saw over the last couple of years, I always thought what they were doing was right off of it in terms of recruitment, in terms of a structure, try to build a foundation and get away some of the crap players that we had. Let's be honest, they were. And some of the toxic players that we had. And I think what we're now seeing, added with a bit of quality, because I don't think we can deny the fact that Jesus and Zinchenko have come in and that Saliba's come in as well. I actually look at it and think, we're now seeing everything you did off the pitch starting to show on it. And that for me has been key because we're seeing togetherness, we're seeing loyalty, we're seeing honest players, we're showing 110%. Everyone wants to be on the same page. They want to wear that shirt. That then connects with the board and the ownership to the fan base and right the way through the core of the club. And that's not something that I can say we've had for a good 18 years at Arsenal. So for me, I think the results on the pitch have definitely improved, but I put it down to the fact that all the work that they've done previously in the bad couple of years we've seen is now starting to show why it was needed because it's been so good this year, Jess. It really has.
Yeah, it's been dreamlike, really. I mean, just from the very first game, I think even because Crystal Palace wasn't an amazing game in terms of we were really good in the first 25 minutes and then we kind of fell away. But the thing is against teams that are difficult to play against at their ground, sometimes you just have to get results. And what we've seen from Arsenal is not only are they able to get results in difficult fixtures, but the football that we play, when we're in control, we are so good. And so it's a combination of the steel, the metal, the mentality, plus the beautiful game, which is really what Arsenal is all about. Because let's just be real. Like at Arsenal, we want to see good football, okay? Like I mean, I'm sure we would have traded some trophies in the middle of that for maybe some bad football, but over the long term what you want to see is Arsenal doing the thing and they're scoring tons of goals. I think even though Jesus hasn't really scored that many goals, he's been central to us like unlocking defenses. And man, like Saliba being back there and some of our players like just have gotten so much better. Are you like surprised by like the growth of Martinelli, Saka? You know, those two players in particular. They're not new, but it seems like they've went up to another level this season.
So it hasn't just been those two that have surprised me. There's been more than just those two. But what I will say is this: you make a good point in relation to Jesus. I think Martinelli and Saka have been outstanding because of Jesus, and I think that Jesus has taken them to another level. But when it comes to actually Jesus out the side, I thought, what's Saka and Martinelli going to do now? Like, are they going to be up there with the performances we've seen this season, or is it going to drop off because Jesus is out the side? And they haven't dropped off for me. They've both been good, so they've been absolutely fantastic. But there's been some players in this side that have completely improved and changed the way that we're playing. One of them is Ben White. He has been
Yeah.
ridiculously consistent, like so good. If you would have said to me Ben White at right back, I would have gone, don't know if I fancy that, He has been ridiculously good, like so good. I think Granit Xhaka, I mean, who is that guy now? I mean, that's for 6 years I've been crying for the guy to be sold. He's been sensational, absolutely amazing. In terms of a new position, his progressive play and then link up play now, he's now being involved. And I've always been a fan of Martin Odegaard, but I called him out last season and the season before for one thing. He doesn't score enough and doesn't assist enough. And now, I mean, he's more than proved that he can do that as well. So they're the players that have probably impressed me the most, if I'm honest with you. A lot of people have been speaking about the Jesus and Zinchenko signings. I actually think they're the two that I look at and would say, yeah, 100% they've improved. But there's others that have actually got better that already were at Arsenal. So for me, that first 11 at the moment is looking very special. And I don't want to go into it too much because we're going to touch on it, but we need more than just that 11 if we're serious about a title. But if you're looking at the teams around us at the moment, I would say there's gaps in most of their 11s, other than perhaps Man City and definitely Arsenal. If you look at Manchester United and Chelsea and Spurs and Liverpool, they've got holes. They need new midfielders. They need a new defender. They need a new centre forward. Arsenal at the moment, if you've got everybody fit, you could name the 1 to 11. You all know it. So that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so obvious what players we need. And I like that. I like that even though we know we need, another DM, it's so
Mm-hmm.
obvious what we're missing. And I think that makes it easier to see where we go from here. Where at certain points, like in the past, it wasn't really that clear. We're like, we need better players, but like, I'm not sure what those players look like. And so I think it's obvious where we need to go. And, seeing Manchester City, although they were knocked out of the Carabao Cup yesterday, the level of depth that they have is just something that Arsenal don't have at the moment. And I find myself feeling like where we are in the season now, January, is like where we start to really see like where our shortcomings are and whether or not the club is going to like make a decision, push us forward. And so, yeah, I think we have a ways to go in terms of trying to emulate that in some capacity, but we
Mm-hmm.
have a really, really good first 13. And seeing Emil Smith Rowe come back into the fold, I don't know about you, but I was like, yes, he's back. Like
Needed.
I was so happy to see. Yeah, yeah, especially because he's an attacker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into just, I think this is the first thing. It's the most topical. It kind of broke in the last hour or so. But Arsenal have been, charged again with breaching the FA rule E20.1 during the tie against Oxford United FC in the FA Cup on Monday, the 9th of January, 2023. It's alleged that that Arsenal FC have failed to ensure its players conducted themselves in an orderly fashion during the 34th minute, and the club has until Monday, 16th of January 2023, to respond. When I saw it pop up in my timeline, I genuinely was like, excuse me?
Same.
Hello? Is anybody there? Like, what moment? What even happened in that game? Because realistically, the first half was kind of boring and kind of shit. You know what I mean? So it was like, what actually happened? Like, nobody even really knows. Then I look back, I'm like, was that the penalty? Like, shout the handball? And all I really remembered was like El Neni and maybe Vieira and Sambi going up to the referee and like being like, hey, it's a handball, it's a handball. But this is the second game in a row where Arsenal have been disciplined by the FA for circling the refs or not conducting themselves properly. What do you think? Because I mean, I don't like to buy into conspiracy theories. That's just not my cup of tea. I'm not really into it. But I am worried about this on the, with a North London derby kind of like in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It feels very pointed, like they're trying to make a point. You have people like Richard Keys coming out saying like Arteta is
Oh.
embarrassing the club and all this kind of nonsense. And I'm just like, it just feels a little bit too like constructed, or you know what I mean? What do you think?
Well, we'll find out, won't we, if it's a conspiracy or not, because this now needs to start happening across all the other clubs, because it isn't just Arsenal doing this. We've been calling for penalties. We've been asking the referee, was it a handball? And if that's not controlling your players, then trust me, I've seen a lot worse on the pitch that hasn't been allowed to go. So if I see Liverpool and Klopp, and I see Man City and Pep, and I see Man United and Ten Hag doing this and nothing happening, I'm going to be asking why it's not a conspiracy then. So I'm not one to jump down the throats and say the FA hate us and that everybody in football hates Arsenal Football Club, because I genuinely don't think that's true. But it will show how unfairly this is if all the other clubs are not getting the same treatment as us right now. It does seem, doesn't it, that the only thing I've seen that you can throw at Arsenal is anything possible this season, because they can't talk about our play for the first time, Jess. They can't say Arsenal are a laughing stock. They can't say we're a joke. They can't put us against Crystal Palace or Brentford on a Friday night and expect us to lose now, because we're not going to. So they've tried all that. It didn't work. Now it won't last. Man City will catch them up. Now they're thinking, oh no, that's not working either. What are we going to do now? Let's just shout at their manager. Let's have a go at him. He's the one who's getting carried away on the touchline. He's running up and down like a madman. Everybody's done it. Fergie's done it. Wenger's done it. Mourinho's done it. Klopp's been doing it for years. Pep's done it before. Let's not worry about them. Let's just look at this guy, because he's top of the league and we don't like it. So let's have a go at him now. And it's coming from me, by the way, who's questioned him. I've questioned Arteta 100%. But I think it's unfair to do that. I don't listen to anything that Richard Key's done. How he's still going is mad. Like, he's trying to be relevant. The guy's sitting there trying to, hey, don't forget about me. I was on your screen 15 years ago on Sky. Please don't forget about me. Like, the guy just needs to go. Like, no one cares about what he says. But it does frustrate me when stuff like this happens, because we see the FA coming out against Newcastle when, let's be honest, I was there at the Emirates. It looked like the guy handballed it. It looked to me as if the players were requesting the ref go and has a look to see if he's handballed it or not. How you get fined for that is beyond me, but so be it. Again, same thing happens against Oxford. They're on us again. Let's fine them again. Let's investigate them again. I don't quite get that, because I don't see it happening at other clubs. So now, if this is a new thing for 2023, I'm fine with it. Make sure it's consistent. Make sure it happens with all the other clubs in, because the minute that it doesn't, Arsenal fans will be asking the question, why us? And I don't know how they can answer that without it being consistent. So this will be interesting for me now, just moving forward.
Oh yeah, 100%. Best believe tonight, from the moment that Fulham and Chelsea kick off,
Yep.
I'm gonna be sitting there with my notebook, like, okay, like, this was this, because I see people do it all the time. And again, if, just like you said, if it's consistent, I don't care. But if it's inconsistent, that's when I'm like, hello? Like, are you serious? This is just, it felt like a joke. And Amira makes a really good point, and this genuinely is what really annoys me, is that the whole thing for the last couple of years, and probably like since we've been crap, Arsenal have had a soft underbelly. They get bullied easy, shows a little bit of fight, circles the ref, doesn't get pushed around, dark arts, all the same things that everybody else does, shows a little bit of fight. No, we can't have this. It's absurd. It's just like, can we live? Can we live our lives? Like,
can't win.
And and surely, I know this may sound, because I'm maybe biased, but isn't a good Arsenal like good for the league? We have one of the biggest fan bases, like beyond like Liverpool and Man United, maybe Chelsea, have similar sizes. Of course, you should want more competition. You should want another team coming into the fold. They look really happy with Newcastle coming in. They look really happy with Manchester United coming in. Why not us? Like, I just don't. It feels so lame.
Well,
It
listen,
feels so lame.
sometimes you can't win in football, and sometimes you make yourself look silly. And that's what a lot of people have done in the last couple of years. They've stuck Arsenal and Palace the first game on a Friday because they thought it was going to be a repeat of the season before when we lost to Brentford. And when we beat them, they didn't like it. And then we've gone on a nice little run, and all the media have now, like the Gary Nevilles of this world and all the others, have got behind it. Oh, I'm not so sure about Arsenal. Don't think Arsenal already yet. Don't think Arsenal. Now it's like, oh, maybe they're looking all right. Oh, maybe they might be in a title race. And now it seems that this has come out. So you're right. They have a soft underbelly. They get bullied. They get beaten up. Now all of a sudden we don't. And they don't like it, do they? They don't like this Arsenal. They want the Arsenal that we used to get rolled over because it makes news. It makes stories for them. The media love it. Arsenal, this is the Arsenal losing to Brentford and Brighton and Palace and all these teams. Now it's not that. They don't like it. So I hope it continues, Jess. I love the fact everyone hates us this season. This is what I've wanted. Everyone used to hate us growing up. When I was growing up as a gooner, when I was in the 90s and I was a young lad, I was literally, everyone hated my football club. Everyone hated it. It was like, we appreciate the way you play football. We think you deserve it, but we hate you because you're annoying us. And we're starting to be annoying again. We're starting to be relevant again. And they can't hack it, these people. They hate it. Long time coming, man. Tell ya.
Yeah, and maybe that's just all it is. I do think it's just a little bit of damn. Like, they're not our punching bag anymore. They're not. They're
Exactly.
not our punching bag. So it's definitely something that I think we all kind of know what it is. But the one thing that does worry me about this is the North London Derby tends to be a very fiery event. It tends to be, the type of game where there's a guaranteed, moment, something is going to happen. We always kind of talk about, so in what minute do you think that Harry Kane's going to get his penalty? Like, there's always something. And a statistic that I saw was that there's been 3 reds in the last 4 North London derbies, and we know that earlier this season it was Emerson, it wasn't us, and but this the season before away from home, it was Rob Holding, and so for me, I guess my question to you would be, with all this talk and narrative around Arsenal and Arteta's antics on the sideline and being disciplined by the FA and the fiery nature of the North London Derby, does it make you worry that this will become a narrative in this game when these points are so, so important for our title race? I think, you know, do you expect Arteta to use this as like bulletin board, something for his bulletin board to fire the team up? Or would you prefer maybe Arsenal and Arteta to be a little bit more calm? Because I know that there's going to be some Arsenal fans that are like, well, let's just not try to feed the beast and Arteta should just calm down on the sideline. Where do you sit on all of that? Continue on with what we're doing, or Arteta maybe calm it down because we really need these points?
I think the minute you calm it down, you might find yourself losing the game or becoming a little bit naive or the momentum losing it because it's a North London derby. It does worry me that this is all now in the news. For the last 2 games, Arsenal have been told that they need to calm down. Arteta, definitely, it would be justified for neutral fans to believe he needs to calm it down a bit on the sideline. I personally like the passion and always have liked passion with managers and players. But this already was a concern for me going into this game. The last 2 have had red cards. I hope no one gets sent off, and I mean that. And the reason I say it is because it completely ruins the game. It ruined the game at the Emirates because it was actually quite a good test until Emerson got sent off. Then we murdered them. In terms of the scoreline, that is, by the way, because I thought we were the better side. Likewise, at their place last season, let's be honest, the red card completely ruined the game. They absolutely battered us after that red card. So you can look back in history at games that have been fantastic, and those that have had red cards have usually ruined the game one way or another. At the Emirates, I remember Adebayor getting sent off, and we absolutely battered them 5-2 because they had 10 men. So I look at games like that and think sometimes red cards ruin games. If it's like a feisty one that at the end of the game you get a red card, it's obviously a little bit different. But I'm talking about first 15 minutes, someone gets sent off, and then it's not a fair competition. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I do think the referee, and I don't know who the referee is going to be, perhaps one of them you can tell me or someone can tell me, has to look at this game like every other North London derby. Forget what's happening in and around it. Forget the fact that Arsenal are in the spotlight. Forget the fact that Harry Kane's got this amount of times to, forget the yellow cards, forget who's on what. Just go and referee a game of football. I hate it when referees believe they have to make a name for themselves because it's a North London derby, or they have to make a decision that that's going to be an out there one because it's a North London derby. Referee this game like you would if it was Everton versus Brentford. So don't look at it as a North London derby. Look at it as Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur. And that would be my suggestion. I know referees will say that that's what they do anyway, but I don't care who you are. You are being told you're refereeing a North London derby. It's going to get to you somehow. You're going to think, I might have to do this. I might have to change my game. I might have to do X, Y, Z. Just go referee the game. No red cards unless there's absolutely broken legs being put in. Let's just go in and try and enjoy it. Because for me, I think it can be ruined with spotlight like this and media pressure. And I think the referee is a part of that as well.
Dallasu says, Arteta was criticized for the confrontation with Klopp at Anfield last season. Perhaps that will also be in the back of his mind. Dallasu, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't think Arteta cares. I don't think Arteta cares. I really don't, because he has not changed his behavior anywhere since then. I don't think that that's a narrative that Arsenal are taking upon themselves. I think that that's an outside media narrative that was just like 1 + 1 = 2, right? Against Newcastle, the media started up with it again and trying to say that Arteta's inability to keep his composure is the reason why the Arsenal players were all over the place and they couldn't, get the game over the line. I knew that game was a draw before the ball was even kicked. I knew it was a draw before before it even started. And the reason for that is because it was just two really good teams that nullified each other. There wasn't any outside narrative about Arteta or the players. We didn't have the ability to break them down. We had the time to do it. We did it. We weren't clinical. And it was literally just that simple. But it's an outside narrative that I don't think Arsenal really are thinking about. Arteta has not changed his behavior. If anything, I think he's become more fiery than ever. And so I understand. I don't think it'll be in the back of his mind, but there is going to be a lot around in this fixture because of just the nature of it. And both teams really need the points, and I think being at their place, the noise and all that, how referees can get. So I hear exactly what you're saying, but I don't actually think Arteta really cares about that. Dan, do you agree?
I'm with you. I don't think Arteta's in the mindset of that. I think if I'm honest, I don't even think he's done much wrong, Arteta. People say
I don't either.
I don't get
either.
I don't get this. Look, I've questions a lot that he's done at Arsenal in the 3 years he's been here, or 4 years nearly now. But that's not one of them. I've always loved his passion. I've always felt he'd do 110%, and I've always thought he'd do best by the club. So I'm fine by those things. I think when you show passion on the sideline, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. If you're showing aggression when you're fist fighting, it might be a little bit different, but I haven't seen that from Mikel Arteta. I've seen him give his own, and when Klopp's screaming in his face, he's going to get back and scream back. And actually, the thing with him and Eddie Howe was actually not way over the top, by the way, because all they were doing was talking. It was the fourth official that Arteta was screaming at, not Eddie Howe.
Right.
Eddie Howe was coming in going, look, just calm it down. We'll sort this out. Eddie Howe, big up, fair play. He came with a game plan. First 5 minutes, we battered them. And then he realised, shit, we better actually get our troops back because we need to try and nick a point here. So that's where it was. So listen, Arteta's fine, man. It's just passion.
100%. I think he has to be committed. This is how I prefer my manager, but to each his own. And I haven't seen many Arsenal fans really say the opposite. But kind of going back into the statistics of the game, Arsenal have won just 5 out of 30 Premier League away games against Spurs, and so this fixture falls within the lowest 5. In terms of win percentage for Arsenal, in our history. It's only 16.7 percent win rate. And so I think you're obviously, you've been an Arsenal fan for a long time, so we don't usually get much from their place. We know it's kind of a place that you chalk down and you're like, well, I'm not sure about that one. NT says, I have no fear about this game. The players would feel the same. We want to be the best in the world. Spuds are also rans. My question to you is, do you have any fear? NT is confident. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are confident, but when I look at statistics like that, I think there's something in them. Not that they can't be changed, but that there is an element of when we go there, we don't usually come out with the 3 points. Do you have any fear about going, to whatever they call their stadium? Let's just call it the toilet bowl. Do you have any fear going to the toilet bowl?
Listen, of course I do. It's a North London derby. Form goes out the window. Anything can happen in football, and we could quite easily lose this game. Do you know why? Because it's a football game. Not because it's Tottenham, not because it's Conte v Arteta, because it's a football game. But I don't know why anybody would be walking into there going, "Oh, I don't know how we're going to get 3 points here. This is going to be impossible." And I have done that a few times. I'm not going to lie, Jess. The last few years, I have been. I've gone to Spurs feeling like crap, and I'm not this time. I look at it in a different way. Um, if we were to walk away with a score draw here, this would not be the end of the world. Oh my God, Arsenal thrown a title away, right? So let's get that out there. It would be disappointing if we lost, I think. Of course it would. But we should be going in there knowing that we've got a better team than them, better players than them, better togetherness than them, better momentum than them. And the manager and players and fans alike have an unbelievable telepathy at the moment. Tottenham are the opposite. Most of their fans want the ownership out. Some of their fans want the manager out. A lot of their players have not got their futures up for grabs. This is chalk and cheese in terms of where we are right now. And this is the first time it's been like that. A lot of Tottenham fans I speak to are like, congratulations on your 3 points. It's all good. We don't care anymore. We're just moving on from it. So when they're like that, it worries me 100% because they will go there with a game plan. They will learn a lot from that Newcastle game. Conte is not a manager that will be all out attack, attack, attack. He's going to make it difficult and he'll make it hard for breakdown. The first goal in like most of these North London derbies is absolutely key. So that's the way I'm looking at it. That would be my only fear. We haven't won there 9 years. Thomas Rosicky 1-0 in the first minute. That's the last time we won at White Hart Lane, 2014. So it's going to be difficult. It still is. I know they're poor at the moment. I know we're good at the moment. But we've lost a little bit of momentum, it has to be said. I think the Oxford game was going to do that because of our change of our team. Also, the game before that was Newcastle, who managed to get a point at the Emirates and celebrate it like they've won the league. So we're going to be going into that now thinking, can we get ourselves back on track to winning ways in the Premier League? And that's exactly what we need to do, particularly against this lot.
Yeah, I think that's my thing about this game is that it's such a big game. We'll look at the table in a little bit because I think that, there's a bigger picture to all of this that, leads me to feel like, and people don't like hearing this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Just don't lose.
Yeah,
Just don't lose. That's really how I feel about this game. Just don't lose, and of course I want to win. But, I worry a little bit about the ghosts from, big games away past where we've left a game feeling like we played really well, but we didn't change our game to suit the bigness of the match and just kind of modify things. We saw that Liverpool, at home. I think some people felt like, maybe we could have been a little bit more conservative, not just try to play our game, whatever. People felt that way against Manchester United earlier on this season, that we were too open. We were, too gung-ho about our high line and all this kind of stuff. Is there a way that you would approach this game differently? Or do you think we have to go out and play our way? As you've already kind of said, Conte is not gonna, he's really not going to, I think, go all guns blazing. But you think there's a way that Arsenal can play where we minimize the chances of them running in behind on the counterattack, because that's a lot of their game, What do you think?
Well, listen, if we're playing the game we've been playing for most of this season, there's no reason why we can't win the game. I don't think we look at Tottenham and go, oh dear, we got to change our tactics completely. There's been 2 games so far this season that have disappointed me at Arsenal out of about 20 odd that we've played, right? That's an amazing thing. One of them was Old Trafford because I felt we were naive and I felt that at 1-1 we should have shut up shop, but we went all guns blazing. We got excited, we were young, and unfortunately we got caught on the brakes, so we lost the game. We did, however, have no Thomas Partey that game. And I think when he plays, he's unbelievable. And also, when you've got Lokonga as your backup, it just ain't for me. He ain't for me, right? So that was a big factor in that game. The other game was Brighton that we lost in the League Cup, because I felt personally that we kind of threw that one away. I don't think Arteta would like to admit it, but I just think he looked at that and thought, let's just see if we can beat them. And oh, we've gone out. What a shame. Okay, let's move on. It was a bit like that. And I find that a bit frustrating, because for me, it's a trophy. They're the only two games I can look at, honestly, this season. Even the Southampton one, we actually should have beaten them because the VAR decision didn't go our way. That's football. It's a draw. We move on. With this one, I don't think there's any way that we should go, right, let's shut up shop. Let's keep Harry Kane quiet. Let's put 3 at the back. Let's go with 1 in midfield. Nothing like that. Let's just play our game, because they are going to struggle. Saka, Martinelli, Eddie, Erdegaard, they're going to struggle. They've got awful defenders, awful. So there's no reason why we cannot get in behind them. They can get in behind us too, because they've got Kane, they've got Son. I think Kulusevski's back. Richarlison, there's rumours over. Bentancur, rumours over. So let's see what team they do have. But they've got players that can hurt us, of course. Harry Kane, by the way, congratulations for your all-time goal. You're going to score against us. You always do. So well done. You know, might not win you the game, but you'll definitely get your all-time record. You can put that in your empty trophy cabinet if you want to. So for me, listen, it is a game that we should be going into thinking, don't change the way you've been, because it has been superb this season. Go there with what you've been doing this season and take the 3 points and let the fans be happy, because we've had some horrible results at their place, mate. Even the new, like last season was horrendous. I was there. I've got PTSD from it. I'm not even going this year. I've actually got plans, but I'm just like, do you know what? I can't deal with that again. So let's make sure that isn't that. And you said something really interesting just to finish, Jess. You said, just don't lose. That was what I said last year. Just don't lose. And we did. And last year was even more important not to lose, because we were going for a Champions League spot. Like, it's early enough this season that if we did lose, it wouldn't matter too much. But actually not to lose means we keep a bit of our momentum. But beating them is so important to me always. So, yeah, I will never accept a loss against them, home or away. I never will. But just don't lose. If you can't win, just don't lose.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Hold on real quick. Gotta block somebody. All right, so I had to block somebody. You know, you just see something, you're like, yeah, I gotta get rid of you.
Yep.
So I guess we know what the lineup is going to be, but I do have a question. Because of Kulusevski, who for me is Beyond Kane, Spurs' most dangerous player.
Yep.
Like, and I know it's like, well, what about Son? I'm not really worried about Son, because I know Ben White and Saliba are going to have him clamped. That's and he's been poor this season, period. And don't let the Crystal Palace game fool you. We are not Crystal Palace, okay? But the other side is where I'm kind of like, they're definitely going to look to exploit that. Most teams have looked to exploit our left-hand side, their right-hand side. They usually have their best player over there, and their plan is to either hit long balls over the top in behind that player, or try to do something to confuse Gabriel and the left back. My question to you would be, who is your left back for that game? Zinni is absolutely an insane footballer. Insane. Like, when he's out there, we play so differently. We play so confident, and we know we're going to have a lot of the ball. But when we played against Liverpool, I did think that Tomiyasu did a really good job nullifying Salah, which was their biggest threat in behind. So would you go with the Tomiyasu, who's looked a little dodgy, but is probably our best one-on-one defender beyond Gabriel? Or would you go with Zinchenko and go full-on Arsenal, this is how we're going to play? What do you think?
Listen, it's a great question, because I was on London Cubs Carnage with Matisse a couple of weeks ago, and Tobes and Lawless and the boys, and they said, how'd you beat Arsenal? Like, talk to me, Potts. How do you beat Arsenal? And I said, well, the only position that I would say that you could exploit would be our left back. I'm a big fan of Zinchenko on the ball, but defensively, I do still have question marks. I think he can get caught out, and I think that he's definitely an attack-minded left back as opposed to a defensive-minded left back. Now, I think if you wanted a defensive-minded left back, then you would go with Tierney or Tomiyasu, right? Because Tomiyasu has proven against Salah that he can keep him quiet, and Tierney's proved defensively that he's better. What Arteta doesn't like about those two options is that they don't play the inverted role as much. They don't play the inverted role as well as Zinchenko, because he did it under Pep and he totally gets it under Mikel Arteta. On the football, he's by far better than Tierney and Tomiyasu put together. Zinchenko is ridiculously good on the ball. Okay, so if you want somebody who can actually play in possession, when we've got the ball, you've got to go with Zinchenko. If you're worried, like I and you are, about Kulusevski, because I disagree with you, I think Kulusevski is actually better and more of a threat than Kane. I actually do. I think Harry Kane is going to be a threat, but not unless Kulusevski or Son is getting the ball to him, right? So that, to me, is why Kulusevski, I mean, I think this kid is really good, by the way. I really like him. Like, such a shame he's gone there. But yeah, Kulusevski's going to be dangerous if he's fit. I think he will go with Zinchenko. If you wanted to ask me who I would go with, then I would probably tend to agree and go with Zinchenko. If it gets to a stage where things are looking like, wow, Kulusevski's absolutely got him on toast here, like 20 minutes in, then I would be ruthless and I would go and get one of the guys to replace him at left back. Whether you think that's tomiyasu or Tierney is up to the manager. But I would like to think that Zinchenko is actually intelligent enough to know that he can't be bombing it up and down. And if it is an inverted role, then he has to be aware of his surroundings, because that Kulusevski kid is an absolute baller. So he's got to have a good game, Zinchenko, if he goes with him. And I think Arteta will.
I think so as well. I think you see the same lineup that all of us know it's going to be. There's nothing else really that we have to look forward to. Left back has always kind of been the position this season where we're like, who might potentially start? And I think that Zinchenko should start because we'll probably try to impose ourselves on the game first. That's probably what we'll try to do, try to get a goal or two early. But once we've gotten the goal or two, about 60 minutes in, if we're 1 or 2 goals up, you take Zinchenko out and you put Tomiyasu on for the last 30 or whatever it is. Because I just feel like at that point, they'll start throwing people on because they'll be at home. They're not going to want to, and their fans are going to be, if we're ahead, they're going to be like, we need you guys to go for it. And I think they'll try to. So for me, I do envision it being a Zinchenko, Tomiyasu job. And I guess my next question to you would be, and this has kind of been a talking point amongst Arsenal fans, whether it's in group chats or Twitter or whatever, is beyond the North London derby and just kind of talking big picture. What do you think about Tierney and his place and role in this side? He doesn't seem to really fit what we're trying to do as the left back. He doesn't really play inverted. He really, I thought, struggled against Oxford. And I know that it was a rotated squad, but I really did feel like that was not a really good performance from him. And I'm getting the feeling that he doesn't really fit the long-term vision of this team, even though from a playing standpoint, from a mentality standpoint, from a talent standpoint, I think he's good enough to be here. But if you're third choice behind Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, what future do you actually have at Arsenal? So just quickly, what do you think about Tierney, who is, by the way, one of my favorite players before, because I know people will be like, you hate Tierney. I know I love Tierney. So what do you think?
It's mad, isn't it? Because he's my favourite player.
Yep.
It's mad.
Exactly.
I love him. I absolutely love everything about the kid. I think he's got so much talent. I think he's got the best attitude. I think his professionalism, his mentality, he's a winner. He wants to be at the best. And if it wasn't for injuries, I think he'd be our first choice left back still. But last season and season before, he was just made of glass. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't been made of glass this season, and therefore Zinchenko's been brought in ahead of him. And I think that he probably thought that he'd be the left back and that he'd get somebody in behind him that could step in for when he's injured, but it's the other way around. We've got better and used Tierney as that backup. What's been frustrating as far as Kieran Tierney and the people that like him, I suppose, is that Tomiyasu was coming in for a tactical decision, but actually it's not, because he's actually been playing ahead of him for a few games when Tierney's been on the bench and Zinchenko's been out. So Tierney will look at that and think, where's my long-term future? Is it at Arsenal? And he would be justified in querying that. I think if the manager wants him, he'll stay and he'll fight for his place. If the manager's honest with him and says, look, you just don't fit into my new system, then I think he will be moved on. I think he needs to have an honest conversation. We need to also remember who bought Kieran Tierney. It wasn't Mikel Arteta. It was Unai Emery. So there's a few things there that would concern me around Kieran Tierney's future at Arsenal. I think he's a wicked left back. I really like him defensively. I think he can play in a back three. And one thing's for sure, he'll give you 110%. When he didn't get the captaincy and he got kind of told he was back up, I thought, there could be problems there for his future.
Because he was supposed to kind of be like the next captain, or we thought that's what was going to happen.
That's what I was hoping. Yeah, so it doesn't seem that way. So I hope that he can get his career back on track at Arsenal. There's no need for him to get his football career back on track. He'll just go somewhere else and be great. But I do think personally that it could be away from Arsenal now, because I'm not seeing enough this season to show that he's willing to fight as much as I thought he would. His mentality doesn't look to be there. He looks a little bit lost at the moment. And you're right, against Oxford, along with tomiyasu, who was really poor, by the way. I think both of them have been rusty. Maybe they haven't played enough football, Jess. I don't know. Maybe they haven't.
It's just wild because I feel like, and maybe because I don't pay attention to other people's teams, I'm like, when they have players that come in that haven't played that often, they still seem to play okay. But when our
Mm,
players don't play a lot, they are rust. They are
yeah,
literally made of rust. Like, it's insane. Tomiyasu was so shocking. Like, I was like, that's not who I remember, because I rate Tomiyasu so highly. Like, he
same.
is one of
Yeah.
my favorite players as well. So I think, yeah, maybe they're not playing enough football. And in regards to Tierney, like, he's not playing enough, but also he can't play every single game because he's fitness wise, he's just not it, you know. So Tierney is somebody that I'm not like desperate to get rid of or anything like that. But it would be like if a bid of like 40 million, 30 million, 40 million came in the summer for him, I do think it's something that you need to consider. At least consider, think about. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because he's a Champions League level
mm,
left back.
mm.
He
I mean,
is
there'll be
like,
interest. There'll be interest, 100%. If there was rumors that
yeah,
we were going to sell him, we ain't going to struggle. There's going to be plenty out there. You know, when he was coming to Arsenal, I think Leicester were really interested under Brendan Rodgers because he had him at Celtic. And then when you see the rumors of Newcastle and Manchester City now that are touting around for a left back, you could see why.
yeah.
Man City, I would say left back is a position they would definitely need to cover. Newcastle, I know Dan Burn has been superb, but it's again another club that would have money to spend on him. So I don't want to see him go.
Yeah,
I really don't. But it wouldn't surprise me if Arteta does consider a big offer if one does come in.
100%. There's 290 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. So before we kind of get into big picture stuff, I do have to ask you about Eddie. You know,
Sure.
what have you made of all of this? Like, I spoke about this the other day. Literally, the moment I saw Jesus get injured, because I saw it when it happened, I thought the worst things, the worst things. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, I was just like, it's done. Oh my gosh. And I tried not to say it out loud, but I felt that way. But Eddie has really surprised me post the World Cup. I think my concern about him is whether or not he can impose himself in big games against big teams. You know, I thought against Newcastle he did all right. He wasn't terrible, but I missed Jesus in that game. Just like I kind of missed, you know,
Mm.
somebody else like at the back end of last season. So, what are your thoughts on how Eddie has stepped in for Gabriel Jesus? And also, like, do you have concerns about him against the bigger sides and bigger games?
Listen, I'll be a fool not to have concerns about Eddie long term as a starter for Arsenal. What I can do is comment on what he's done so far. And your eyes don't lie to you. The guy deserves his flowers. He has been superb. Goal contributions this season: one game in the League Cup, one goal; one game in the FA Cup, two goals; three goals in the Champions League. Sorry, I wish Europa League, and in the Premier League, he's got four goals. I think in four starts, 11 goals in 11 games at the Emirates. I mean, you can't look at them numbers and tell me that he's not doing well at the moment at Arsenal Football Club. And if you was to look at the stats around Europe and say that you were looking or scouting for a guy, you'd look at those numbers and go, "This kid knows where the net is." So, although I think Jesus is levels above him, he's been scoring the goals Jesus couldn't. So you can't forget that. He's not doing the work rate that Jesus does. He's not linking up as much as in my opinion. He's definitely got better at it. I think this year's development has proven that he's stronger. He's better off the ball. His link up plays better. He knows how to keep hold of the ball a lot better without getting pushed off of it or without losing it. I think there's definitely elements of his game he still needs to work on. I think there's a lack of telepathy sometimes between some of his teammates, which, to be fair, is going to come from not playing regular football. But now that we is starting to play regularly, you can't sit there and say that he's been an absolute flop since Jesus has come out, because he's been banging the goals in. So I've been really impressed. He's definitely, along with Arteta, proved the doubters wrong, that this kid was good enough. He's been proven that he's good enough to be a part of this squad. Whether you think he should be ahead of Jesus or not, he's definitely a part of this side and believes that he should be. And I have concerns going into the Spurs United games, of course, because I had them before. But I suppose my concerns have been lifted a little bit, seeing him playing well against the likes of West Ham and Brighton and the other guys. So I don't know, Jess. I feel like he deserves a hell of a lot of credit. And I think rightly so, he's starting to get it now. And I think that some of the people are starting to lay off him a bit because I like Eddie. Everything about Eddie off the pitch, I really like. I like him as an Arsenal lad. I like his mentality. I liked him in the documentary when he kind of said to Lukonga, look, I know you want to play, but you got to fight for your place like I am. I liked all that. For me, that is what you want to hear. But some of the times on the pitch, he's frustrated the hell out of me. But of late, that's changed. And I hope it continues because I'm really happy for the kid, man.
I am as well. And I think what I really want to see is, like, obviously, like, I want to beat Spurs, whatever. I would love to see him get a goal against Spurs away from home. I think that would do wonders for the kind of like belief, at least from an Arsenal fan perspective, about what he can do against the big sides, because that's all that's missing for me. And I know that he scored 2 goals against Chelsea, but they were dead. At the back end of last season, they were dead. The big games were Newcastle away and Spurs away, and that's where the team fell away. But I also felt like he wasn't really, he couldn't impose himself, and so I think that would do wonders. It's going to be, I think, more difficult just because they play with 3 center backs, and that's difficult for a striker and stuff like that. But if he could score a goal, like, and get us over the line in that game, I think Arsenal fans, which I think this is important as well, when the fans believe, the players also believe too, when they feel the fans really behind them. And I think if you just kind of tick that box, Arsenal fans will really start to believe. You go into the Manchester United game and the Emirates is freaking rocking. And I think it's going to be so, so important. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Eddie, and, you pretty much mimic like the same thoughts that I have. And, but I think this is kind of like beyond Eddie. We know we need another attacker to come in. We've been linked with Mudryk,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like the deal is happening, but it's kind of taking forever. What are your thoughts on Mudryk as a player? In just general, even if you haven't seen a lot of him, but what are your just like Cliff Notes versions of what you think about him and the fee? It's going to be a big fee, probably a record fee for Arsenal. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money from what we hear, Jess. And I can go on what I know of the lad. That's all I can go on. I can't tell you that I watch Ukrainian football. I can't lie to you and say I watched every single second of the Champions League for Shakhtar Donetsk. When I watch Champions League football, it's probably the last game I put on. Shakhtar Donetsk is not a team that I look at. So I can't feed you BS and say this kid is absolutely wonderful. I've seen every minute of his game. But what I can do is listen to people that have watched him that I trust, tell you what I thought of his clips, and tell you what I have seen in the Champions League of him. So I've seen clips in the Champions League of Mudryk. I've seen clips of Shakhtar Donetsk when I watched the goals game on BT Sport. When all the goals go in, I always watch that. And whenever they had a goal, Shakhtar Donetsk, I kept saying, "Who's that blonde kid?" That's all I kept saying. I had no idea what his name was. No idea.
Who's
Who's that blonde
the kid
kid?
with the Backstreet Boys haircut? Who's that?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I was thinking, who is this guy? Because he's the one that everybody can tell clearly without even liking football that he's clearly levels ahead of the others. So I looked at that and thought, who's this guy? Then, of course, we get the link with him. And I'm thinking, okay, look, he fits the bill. He's a left winger. He can play on the other side, apparently. He's 21 years old. And when I started to look into research from others that were looking at him and doing breakdowns on him, they were comparing him. I think one of the questions was, tell me a player that he reminds you of. And actually, they combined Hleb and Walcott, the pace of Walcott, the quick feet of Alexander Hleb. And I thought, wow, if he's that, then I'll take him. If Arteta and Edu really want to get Mudryk in, then just do it. Because for all the times that I've questioned what they've done on the pitch, recruitment has not been one of them. They've got some wrong, Jess. They've got Willian wrong, and Ceballos and Runnison and Mari and Cedric. You can go on. Lukonga and Tavares will probably be a part of that. But they have actually got a lot right. There's probably 8 in the first team that they pretty much got right. So I look at it now and think, let's just get this guy. Now, like you, I'm frustrated that we haven't actually got this guy in before Spurs so that he can actually get on the bench, because I thought that it was pretty much a done deal, personal terms agreed, but we seem to be arguing on a fee. Now, if it's going to be the 80 or 70 or 90 or whatever the hell million it's going to be, I really don't care. Do you know why? Because it ain't my money. I'm not an Arsenal accountant. I don't sit there and go, oh, we should be saving 5.2 million here and we're getting mugged off. I don't care. If that money, say, wins us the league, I'll be happy for it. It was like the Joao Felix thing for me. Everyone going absolutely mad, losing their heads. Why would Arsenal pay that much? If it wins you the league, do you actually care that £15 million is coming out of the budget to win you a league and you care? I wouldn't. Now, if it doesn't win you the league, different story. You can start to see, was that really the best money to be spending? But if that's going to win you the league and you show ambition to win a league by getting in the Felix, the Mudryk, the Tielemans, the defensive midfield we clearly need, that to me is, I'm saying to Kroenke, you've changed. Big up, Josh, because you're going for a title. So that's what I want to be seeing when I'm looking at this transfer window, Jess. And at the moment, we're not seeing that. Now, just lastly on Mudryk, does he actually play when he comes in? I'm not sure that he does at the moment. He's going to have to force his way into that side because I'm not dropping Martinelli or Saka for him. Might be that Martinelli could go through the middle when we play Mudryk on the left and there's an option, but he's not getting into the first team. So people will say, why are we going for it? The reason we're going for it is because we need competition. That bench has got no firepower on it. When you're 0-0 at Newcastle, when you're bringing on tomiyasu, you've got problems. Yeah. So for me, with Smith Rowe back and Mudryk on the bench, you've got some firepower along with Fabio Vieira, who I think will be utilised a lot more towards the back end of this season. So he's a player that I would like to see come in 100%.
Yeah, I'm down. Do you guys know how I feel about competition for spots? Do you guys know how I feel about you only talk about players and their price tags when they fail? And I think a lot of Arsenal fans have PTSD from Pepe, but not every big signing is going to be Pepe. And we're potentially signing Mudryk because they're banking on the potential of this player. And so you have to give him time, but I think he could be good in the meantime, but he should just explode in the future. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I know I only have you for a couple more minutes, so I do want to look big picture and get your prediction for the North London derby. So I'm going to share my screen to show something. The table. So this is where we are. Yes, I ask Alexa every morning who's the top of the Premier League table because it's fun. But Arsenal sit top. But we know we have everybody is kind of playing each other, which is so strange. You know, it's like, I think Man City's next two games are Man United and Tottenham. Ours is Tottenham and Man United. Man United plays City first. Like, there's a lot of things kind of going on here and a lot of switching and moving around could happen. I guess my question for you is, what do you think is going to happen prediction-wise for the Spurs game? And where do you think we will be at the end of the Man United game? Do you think we'll extend our lead, or do you think our lead will get smaller? Like, what do you think? Like, because you could even tell me, like, Man City, do you think that they'll kind of slide away? Do you think Manchester United will get closer? What do you think? Because Man United have been good over the last couple of weeks as well.
It's a huge month. It's a huge month for a lot of teams. Sorry, and I think we're going to know exactly where we are come the end of this month. We're going to get to the end of this month and have a couple of difficult games in the long run. But with Everton and Brentford, you could like to think that we've got an easier run than we have had. So I think with Spurs and Manchester United around the corner, with of course an FA Cup game against Man City to throw in the mix as well, it's going to be difficult for Arsenal. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe we drew them. I mean, wow.
You can't. I just knew it.
Did you really?
When the balls were going around, I was like 6-14. 6-14. I know it. Like, and then when it came out, I was like, exactly. Like, I just
should have put money on it.
Yeah, I should have.
Yeah, it's mad. Listen, we should be top of the league after Manchester United.
Of course.
But there's always that worry that it could be a lead that's not 5 points, because Tottenham could take points off of us, Man United could. We could draw both those games quite easily. The way both teams are playing in Manchester United and Arsenal means it could be a very close game. And we've spoken already about the North London derby fixture being tough and tight. So I think Arsenal will be top whatever happens from those two games. I really do. If I had to put my Arsenal head on, I would say that we're going to be fine and we'll still be 5 points clear and we'll get 3 points in both, 6 points from both. So that's what I'm going to stick with. But as I say, it's quite easy that we could drop points in one or both of those games because you wouldn't look at those two games and go, easy, 3 points, done, and 5 points clear. We'd be foolish to do that. But the way we're playing, we should be fairly confident that could be the case. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win at North London Derby to Arsenal. I think it's going to be a really close one. I don't see this being a hammering either side. And, this could be a score draw, but I am going to go with my heart and say that we're going to have an Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1 North London Derby victory.
Yeah. You guys let me know there's 316 of you guys in here, so get in the chat and let us know what your predictions are for the North London Derby. But I actually agree with you. I think it's going to be a 2-1 Arsenal win in the North London Derby. It's going to be close. There's going to be some BS. They're going to get a penalty. It just is what it is. Like, it always happens. That's just what it is. But I think we'll have enough, because I'm not convinced by Spurs, in terms of what they're doing right now, but I'm convinced by us. And I think we will have learned something from Newcastle. When we get the chances, we'll put them away. And then there's going to be a lot of defending. And this is going to be, I think, a really big moment for Gabriel. I think he's been our best center back this season. And what he tends to do is really carry us away from home in difficult games where we have to really defend. And I think he's going to be important for this game. Ramsdale as well, who's been shaky, but I think he'll step up to the plate. And in terms of where we'll be after these next couple of games, I think, we'll still be top. But I said going into these next 2 games, we need 4 points. And so I think we beat Spurs and we draw to United. And we go on from there. And I would bite your freaking hand off for that. Okay?
Yeah, just don't lose.
Yeah, just don't lose. That's pretty much where I'm at, because especially like in the United game, if we draw to them, they don't gain anything on us. And something tells me that Manchester City are not exactly the same team that we remember them to be, and they will drop more points. Like, we'll drop points, but I think they'll drop more. Like, I don't see as strong of a City side as I've seen over the last couple of years. So we'll definitely see what happens. He says 4-1 to us. James Bond says 2 for Arsenal. Garang says 2-1 Arsenal. Didier says 3-1 to Arsenal. Finger Football says I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. Matt G said I'd love to keep a clean sheet against Spurs. It is impossible. Sorry to let you know that, Matt, but it is impossible. They will get a penalty. Keenan says, title settings people, we need to flip it and believe that we can increase the gap to 8. I think United will beat City. That's going to be a really, really interesting game, but I have a feeling United will beat City as well. Harry says 3-1 to Harry to us. Kane Penn, obviously he knows the deal. Noel says 3-2 Arsenal. So a lot of confidence. What I will say is my main thing is just don't lose. And but I don't think we will. I think we have enough. So yeah, but there's 315 of you guys in here. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Dan, can you let everybody know where to find you, what you're doing, and all that kind of stuff before we get out of here?
Bless you. Thanks for having me on. Big up everyone in the chat. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. If you do want to follow me, you can come over at DanArsenal87 on Instagram, Twitter, and all that malarkey. And come and follow my new podcast. It's 6 months old. I've got Football's 12th Man podcast going on. If you can help us on the road to 7K people, that would be amazing. It's Arsenal content, but of course, all Premier League content. Just done our latest Race for Europe show last night, which was, of course, good fun because it's all the teams that are fighting for Europe at the moment. So please make sure you come over and support that. I'd be appreciated. Thanks, Jess.
Amazing. You guys, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's so important to let the channel grow. Dan, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll be on your show soon.
Absolutely.
You'll come back here 100%. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye, y'all.